Welcome to the Burn Your Mortgage Podcast, a Canadian real estate podcast that shows you how to pay off your mortgage sooner and live well while doing it. Now, here's your host, Sean Cooper.
Welcome to the Burn Your Mortgage Podcast. I'm Sean Cooper, and it's great to be back for another episode. On today's show, I'll be talking to Sam Khajeei, the president and co-founder of Fastkey Technology Limited, and David Ford, who's in charge of lender relations at Fastkey. Launched nationwide in April, Fastkey Technology allows lenders and mortgage brokers to easily access essential documents for mortgage or loan applications within minutes, including notices of assessment, income statements, proof of income, tax slips, and Canada Child Benefit details. It also has tools to help support borrowers, property managers, and landlords. In my interview with Sam and Dave, we discuss what is Fastkey and what are its many benefits, how Fastkey can be helpful for salaried employees, and how Fastkey can be helpful for self-employed individuals. Without further ado, here's my interview with Sam and Dave. Hi, Sam. Hi, David. How are you both doing today? It's a pleasure to have you on the Burn Your Mortgage podcast.
Thanks so much for having us, Sean.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm excited to speak with both of you today as well because, I just started using Fastkey myself and I had a great experience with it. It just makes the document process so much easier from a borrower perspective. So, for the people who have used Fastkey, they seem to be big fans, but I'm sure many of the listeners haven't heard of Fastkey because unfortunately we both don't have the budget of one of the big five banks to put billboards on the side of the highway and advertisements on TV and on the internet and all that. So Sam, why don't you get started and tell listeners about what is Fastkey and how you got started and the services that you offer?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Sean. So in a nutshell, Fastkey is a company that helps applicants to mortgages receive, documents really quickly from the CRA in connection with their mortgage application. There's a number of other things that Fastkey and Fastkey.com offers. And that's just for clarity, it's the opposite of Slowkey. So Fastkey does a number of different things as well. In addition to helping a borrower, an applicant, get their mortgage documents in place, we also have contracts with the police departments across Canada so that person could run a criminal record check remotely from their desktop computer at home for a relatively reasonable price of $25.99 plus GST. So that gives an individual the opportunity to do a criminal record check without actually having to get up and go out of the house, stand in line at a police department. We also have a credit report that's just a soft credit check done by Equifax so that borrowers, applicants in connection with mortgages can take a quick look at their credit score and have a sense of the kind of borrowing that they'll be eligible for. So that's, in a nutshell, what Fastkey.com does, Sean.
That's great. And David, did you want to add anything else yourself as well?
Yeah, our primary focus over the last few months has certainly been the mortgage application process. And so working with lenders, the lending community, the broker community, that has been, I guess we could call it a primary focus. Things like asset reports and income reports, those are in the works where lenders would rely on our reports for down payment verification. But like Sam mentioned, the CRA document retrieval, especially since CRA has changed their permissions for an individual if they log into their account and try to pull the documents that a lender would need. Since that occurred last year, we've seen a massive uptake in the need and the use for Fastkey to gather these documents. So certainly that's our main product and I've been helping to alleviate that friction point.
Yes, that sounds great because, documents are one of the necessary evils of getting out mortgages and, anything to make the process easier for the borrower on board with as well. So, that sounds great. So following up on that there, I guess I'll throw it back to you there, Sam. So can you talk about how Fastkey is helpful for borrowers? There are a couple of things I wanted to address. So for There's two kinds of main borrowers here. There's the salaried employee as well as somebody who's self-employed. I'll toss the one for the question about self-employed to you, David, after this, but I'd be curious to hear from you first, Sam, if you could talk about how Fastkey would be helpful for somebody who is a salaried employee. Like, I'm not sure where you are with the down payment documents and the assets and all that. If that's available today, if that's not available today, then that's fine. But just talking about stuff like the T4 slips, the tax slips, like with mortgage lenders, they need to verify, like most of the time it's T4 slips if you're doing a 2-year average, but sometimes there's like you can use other income like investment income, stuff like that there. And yeah, just with CRA kind of making the documents more secure by when you download it, not showing the borrower's name or social insurance number. It can be frustrating to get those documents there. So yeah, so you could talk about how Fastkey helps facilitate that there and makes it easier for somebody so that they're not digging through their filing cabinet or having to go back to a former employer to get the T4 slip, then that would be great.
Sure, absolutely, Sean. So the nice thing about this is I can actually speak to it from my own perspective as a mortgage applicant working with a broker in the past. So I was at one point a salaried employee, and in that time frame, I had actually applied for a mortgage. I was banking with one of the big 6 banks at the time, but I wanted to work outside to apply for, brokered mortgage that wasn't available through my bank. And the initial experience it was great, except for the fact that the amount of documents requested of me were really, really cumbersome to obtain. So unfortunately, I should be better, but I didn't necessarily have the documents ready to go. And I didn't really know what those documents referred to. So my broker asked me for 2 years of notices of assessments, statements of account, Canada Child Benefit information, CCB information, proof of income, and like you said, Sean, all my T-slips. I am not a good record keeper. And so I didn't actually have this stuff and I had no idea how to get it. So here I am in the morning calling CRA, being put on hold for a long amount of time, not really being able to obtain the information. And ultimately, that process frustrated me. And I actually ended up going away and to my bank. And sadly, I actually got a worse rate. And it was all because I really got frustrated by the process. So Fastkey tries to alleviate all of that by registering with our platform and simply just signing on as an applicant through the instructions that your broker will send to you. You can quickly authorize Fastkey as your level 1 authorized representative. And at that point, we extract all the information that your broker is looking for and send it directly to your broker so that you don't even have to be involved anymore. So really, from an applicant standpoint, it's encouraging statement from you to your broker that ideally we should be using fastkey.com so that you don't have that level of frustration that I experienced in chasing down all these documents and then sending sensitive documents like this by your email and all the other issues that come from it, like you said, not even having my name on the documents that I download myself.
Thank you for sharing that story there, Sam. And it's a powerful story. And yeah, just speaking from personal experience, like getting these tax documents can be frustrating, and getting the right tax documents is even more frustrating. Like I can only imagine being a borrower and sending in these documents and then thinking I'm downloading the right documents and then being told, unfortunately, we can't use these documents because it's missing your name or social insurance number. So yeah, I can speak from firsthand, like working with some borrowers here, they were having pretty frustrating time with the CRA website, but as soon as they use Fastkey, they not the most tech savvy, but they found it super easy to use, and we were able to get the documents within only a couple hours there. So they were very impressed with the service. I was very impressed with their service there. So yeah, definitely don't let documents be a deterrent there. It's great that there's a service like Fastkey out there that makes the process of getting documents that much easier than ever to switch mortgage lenders, and you're not running into a problem with the documents there. So thanks again, Sam. So switching gears, I'll pass it over to you, David. So yeah, if you could talk about Fastkey from a self-employed individual's perspective. So yeah, being self-employed, the documents can be even more than like a salaried employee because you have to provide tax returns for the last 2 years, notice of assessment, and the list goes on and on. If you're buying a property, you have to provide down payment documents and such. So yeah, maybe you can talk about how Fastkey helps somebody that's self-employed, because the sad reality is some self-employed individuals, like they probably just decide to renew with their existing lender because they're just remember the first time, like how the process of getting the document was, and they're just like, I don't want to go through that again. So yeah, if you could talk about how Fastkey makes that a lot easier for them so that it's a lot more turnkey and simple, that would be great. And then I'm sure more people will want to switch lenders who are self-employed there.
Yeah, well, I think, just to reiterate, even the process, whether you're self-employed or an employee, our default setting for orders from a mortgage broker are to obtain the last 2 years' history and all available tax documents. So whether you are an employee and you obtain a T4 and T4 only, or you are a self-employed applicant that, maybe they pay themselves a dividend at the end of the year, but also T4, the process for a self-employed applicant is just one task, and the process for an employee is just one task. And I think that's why we're seeing such a big uptick in usage, is because for a self-employed applicant, that you're absolutely right. Maybe they do have that T5 slip for a dividend, plus they pay themselves a T4, and maybe they have investment income, or there's many sources of income that could make up that total that a mortgage broker, needs to use on a 2 year average. It's all available tax slips is kind of the key one that we've seen, because we've seen one, I think it was for 2 years, it was 17 pages. And that was an employee who was a teacher, and she worked for, one regular school district during the year, taught summer school, but there was also a change of jobs in there. And she also had investment income. So for her alone, you would think, oh, this is a standard file, right? And she wouldn't know. You'd ask her for her T4 and you'd get it, and it wouldn't add up to the total income. So I think, whether you're self-employed or, employed, but also have different sources, I think it's really important to use Fastkey because you have the names on them, you have all available tax slips, all income sources, and then you also get the notice of assessment that does that total and proves there's no taxes owing. So, we know on the broker side that's an important component, but the applicant doesn't know that. And, we can do our best to educate them as much as we can that we need absolutely everything. But then you're right, like Sean, if you're that applicant going through multiple tax years and multiple different document types and navigating through CRA Online, like that is a friction point. So we've been able to just completely bypass that for the applicant's experience. And then the broker and the applicant, they get all the documents and they're available in their portal that's stored securely on Canadian servers.
Well, you've sold me, David. I mean, I've used Fastkey myself and it was a great experience, and my borrowers are very happy with it as well. So the bottom line is definitely don't just renew with your existing bank or lender because you're worried about providing documents for mortgage renewal purposes. Yeah, definitely. There's a great service out there called Fastkey, which helps make the process of providing documents super simple. So yeah, definitely don't just renew and leave a lot of money on the table. It's important to due diligence by working with a mortgage broker. And yeah, a great service like Fastkey can help make the process that much simpler for you when switching mortgage lenders. So yeah, it's been great chatting with you. Was there anything else that either of you wanted to mention about Fastkey before we wrapped up the podcast?
I think, Sean, from my perspective, it's just that we're trying to build the profile. And as we gain traction in this market, you're going to see Fastkey become more and more of a staple in the lenders' process. And as that happens, that means that more and more brokers will use us, and therefore it will become a much more expedited approach to doing all this. And so the more familiarity we have and growth we have, the better, obviously. So it just goes back to what I said earlier. If an applicant is doing a mortgage with one of their brokers and the broker is going through the email process, the applicant can very simply say, hey, like, have you heard of Fastkey? Why don't we use this instead of having me, search for the documents, scan them if I have to, figure out what the right documents are, et cetera, go back and forth with you. And it'd be way faster for us to do it with Fastkey. So it'd be helpful to have an encouraging statement given to your broker from the applicant.
And it's Fastkey, not Slowkey, right? I'm
Exactly.
just kidding.
Yeah. Fastkey, not Slowkey.
And Dave, is there anything else that you wanted to mention? Maybe you can talk about how the name Fastkey came to be or anything else helpful.
Yeah, well, really this was to expedite the process of document fulfillment. And so whether it's a tenant screening or you're working in the mergers and acquisitions space with employee onboarding or mortgage lending, Fastkey wanted to be that secure portal. Like Sam mentioned, I don't think it will be too far down the road where lenders will say, this is our preferred method, right? I think that the amount of fraud that's been on the rise, document fraud, down payment fraud for bank history, things like that, Fastkey is at the front runner and now really starting to become top of mind, certainly in the lender community. But we don't just serve mortgage brokers on that side. If you're a property manager, Sean, I'm sure you have lots of clients who manage multiple properties. This is a great screening process because we can provide that income verification, the criminal record check, Equifax reports. So Fastkey is in a few other verticals, and we're really excited to certainly continue to expand our reach in the mortgage broker channel and that applicant channel. But yeah, we're around for a number of different uses and purposes and documents.
Well, thank you both for your time. I'll be sure to include a link to Fastkey in the show notes so my loyal listeners can learn more about Fastkey. So yeah, again, thank you both for your time. And it was a pleasure having you both, Sam and David, on the podcast today.
Thanks, Sean.
Thanks, Sean. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Burn Your Mortgage podcast. Besides being a podcast host, I'm also an independent mortgage broker. If you or anyone you know, family, friends, coworkers, or neighbors could ever use any unbiased mortgage advice or a second opinion, feel free to reach out. Email me at Sean, that's SEAN, at burnyourmortgage.ca, or call or text me at 647-867-3711 for a free mortgage consultation. Also, be sure to head on over to www.burnyourmortgage.ca and sign up for my free weekly newsletter. As a small token of my appreciation, you'll be able to download my ultimate mortgage checklist on choosing the perfect mortgage. I look forward to hearing from you and helping you with all your mortgage needs. Once again, thanks for listening.
You've been listening to the Burn Your Mortgage podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes and leave a rating. Until next time, happy mortgage burning.